Live from New Delhi, watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. US urges Americans to leave all of the Middle East due to safety concerns. Trump outlines objectives of its military action on Iran as the last best chance to eliminate the threat posed by the Tehran regime.
What we're doing right now, and this was our last best chance to strike. What we're doing right now and eliminate the intolerable threats posed by this sick and sinister regime.
Iran conflict disrupts global trade as shipping companies order vessels to find shelter. Traffic on world's most vital sea route grinds to a minimum. Oil, gas prices surge. Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks to King of Bahrain, King of Jordan and Saudi Crown Prince, strongly condemns attacks, calling it violation of sovereignty, calls for regional peace. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address the post-budget webinar on the theme Sustaining and Strengthening Economic Growth via video conferencing aims to strengthen the foundations of critical sectors. And today, the sky will host a spectacular celestial show as full moon will slip into Earth's darkest shadow during a total lunar eclipse and create a stunning bloody moon. And big news coming in right now. The U.S. State Department urged Americans in more than a dozen countries in the West Asia to depart now via commercial transportation due to serious safety risk as the war against Iran nears its fourth day. The countries listed by the department included Bahrain, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Jordan, Israel, the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, Lebanon, Oman, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria, the United Arab Emirates and Yemen. The U.S. State Department has also activated an interagency emergency task force to manage the situation and coordinate the United States response to the conflict. In a video message, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio informed its citizens regarding the important contact information.
Americans abroad to follow our security updates for U.S. citizens channel on WhatsApp and follow @TravelGov on social media as well. The latest alerts are also available on travel.state.gov. That's our website, travel.state.gov. Americans in the Middle East, you can reach the Department of State 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at the following phone number: 1-202-501-4444.
Other big news coming in from West Asia. New explosions were heard in Riyadh early on Tuesday as Iran pressed on with its campaign of retaliatory strikes across the Gulf. Well, the Saudi's defense ministry confirmed 2 drones had struck the U.S. embassy in Riyadh, starting a small fire. Trump warned that the United States would retaliate soon after its embassy in the Saudi capital Riyadh was struck by suspected Iranian drones. Qatar's military also intercepted 2 ballistic missiles early on Tuesday morning. Defense Ministry in a statement said that Qatar was able to intercept and neutralize 2 ballistic missiles that targeted several areas within the country, adding the threat was dealt with immediately upon detection. Meanwhile, Israeli forces are continuing their attacks on Tehran, striking the IRIB state broadcaster on Tuesday. Also, Iran's state broadcaster reported 2 explosions near its Tehran headquarters, but said it was continuing to broadcast amid the ongoing Israeli-US strike campaign. IRIB serves as Iran's state media network. It has a huge role in official communications and national broadcasting across Iran. Also, Israel's military said on Tuesday that it had launched strikes on Hezbollah targets, including command centers and weapons storage facilities in Lebanon's capital, Beirut, after warning it would press ahead with its campaign against the Iran-backed group. And DD India's Akshay Dongre joins us for more on this. Well, Akshay, the U.S. State Department has issued a red Depart Now advisory for Americans across multiple West Asian countries. How does it reflect Washington's current assessment of the risk tied to the intensifying conflict with Iran, also widening the geographic scope of attacks across the Middle East?
Well, Lipakshi, if we look at the situation right now that is unfolding, a classic example of miscalculation that happens during the war. You know, a similar kind of miscalculation happened when Russia tried to do its launch a special operation in Ukraine with what it felt will be a quick war and quick annexation of territory. It turned out to be several years of non-stop conflict. And similar thing may unfold in Iran. You know, Iran is not Venezuela. It's not a small country where you can just send an armada, abduct the leader and then expect things to be fine. This is a major Middle Eastern country we're talking about, a major exporter of oil, a major exporter of natural gas to many of the countries. Its economy, though has been dwindling down, it is a major economy of the region and has a major military power as well. So the situation was, it seems miscalculated because initially the early leads that the US and Israeli Air Forces got with the killing of Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, it seemed to Israel and America both that the people will rise up and there will be a revolution from inside and there will be a regime change that will be triggered by the death of Khamenei. But as of now, nothing of that sort has happened. It seems that not only a succession plan was already there, but also decentralization of power has been done quite aptly by the Iranian Defense Forces, the IRGC, that enables it to work split into several units, even more than 30, and work as independent units in times of crisis and in times of lack of clear communication from the chain of command. So that seems to be the classic example of why the assessment that was initially done by the US as far as this conflict is concerned was not only slightly miscalculated by a major margin. And it seems now, you know, new assessment and new sort of calculation will have to be done. And even though Israel and US can step up attacks on Tehran, we are just talking about, drones and missiles attacks by both the parties. We're not even taking into account the one of the strongest arms of the of Tehran, the ground troops that is in form of the IRGC, the Hezbollah, the other Houthis that are there, their ground troops who can raise quite a long and bloody guerrilla warfare for years to come. Before unless there is an internal change of politics from within Iran, it's not that the forces can send their troops. And also, what we have heard is that the US president has said that he will not shy away from sending in troops on the ground. That may be a disastrous, outcome of this conflict, especially for the US, given the fact that it can enjoy distance from this conflict using the AAD, the air defense systems and missiles, but not when the troops are landed on the ground.
All right, Akshay. So miscalculated risks out there. Also, Trump warned of longer Iran war as violence spreads now, with Israeli strikes now repeatedly hitting even Iran's state broadcaster in Tehran, and Gulf countries also intercepting drones and missiles all over their own capitals. How close are we to this conflict spilling into a full-scale regional war now?
Well, it's almost there. It's just short of an announcement. You can see the missiles are right now flying in even Riyadh, attacking the US embassy. And it's only these countries of the Gulf are not responding as of now because so far the targets have only been the US assets. But once uh, the retaliation begins from the Gulf countries, then all the targets will also be open for the IRGC, the Iranian military, to target the more economical hubs of not only UAE, but Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. See, these economies obviously have flourished because of oil money, but they are concentrated in major cities like Riyadh, major cities like Kuwait City, in Qatar, Doha in Qatar, Dubai and Abu Dhabi in UAE. So it's easier for Iran to sort of go after the economic centers if they want to inflict a larger damage in these countries, and that perhaps remains the biggest threat as far as a spilling over of this conflict is concerned, because large concentration of public, not only the locals but the diaspora lives in these areas, and that can be devastating for the regional peace and regional stability.
All right, Akshay, thank you so much for all that analysis out there. And moving on, US President Donald Trump on Monday said that he ordered the attack on Iran to thwart its nuclear and ballistic missile programs, vying to pursue the conflict for as long as necessary. In his first live remarks in public after Iran attack, Trump outlined objectives of US military action on Iran as the last best chance to eliminate the threat posed by the Tehran regime.
This was our last best chance to strike what we're doing right now and eliminate the intolerable threats posed by this sick and sinister regime. And they are indeed sick and sinister. Our objectives are clear. First, we're destroying Iran's missile capabilities, and you see that happening on an hourly basis, and their capacity to produce brand new ones, and pretty good ones they make. Second, we're annihilating their navy. We've knocked out already 10 ships. They're at the bottom of the sea. Third, we're ensuring that the world's #1 sponsor of terror can never obtain a nuclear weapon, never going to have a nuclear weapon. I said that from the beginning. They're never going to have a nuclear weapon. They were on the road to getting one legitimately through a deal that was signed foolishly by our country. And finally, we're ensuring that the Iranian regime cannot continue to arm, fund, and direct terrorist armies outside of their borders.
Well, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday visited a site west of Jerusalem hit by an Iranian strike and said it was the third day of Operation Roaring Lion, aimed at thwarting existential threats to Israel alongside the United States and US President Donald Trump. Asserting that Iran's nuclear and missile program is a threat to the entire world, Netanyahu said Israel's military actions are aimed not at defending itself, but also at safeguarding global security.
And if this regime, this terrorist regime of the kind we've never seen in the world, if they get nuclear weapons and the means to deliver them, ballistic missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles, they will threaten all of humanity. So we set out to protect ourselves, but in so doing, we protect many others. And I want to say special thanks to our great friend and a great leader of the world, Donald Trump, for joining us in this crucial effort to save the world.
Well, the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that the U.S. military operation against Iran was aimed at eliminating the threat posed by Iran's short-range ballistic missiles and its naval capabilities, particularly regarding threats to global shipping.
The United States is conducting an operation to eliminate the threat of Iran's short-range ballistic missiles and the threat posed by their Navy, particularly to naval assets. That is what it is focused on doing right now, and it's doing quite successfully. The purpose of this is to destroy that missile capability. Why does Iran want that ballistic missile capability? What they are trying to do and have been trying to do for a very long time.
Well, meanwhile, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Tehran is not at war with regional countries, but it is with the United States after the country was attacked on last Saturday.
الان وضعیت فرق میکنه. We are no longer confronting our neighboring countries. We are confronting American forces stationed at bases of these countries' territory. We are also dealing with Americans who are attacking us day and night by every means, and with the Israelis, of course. And if US bases in these regions evacuate their soldiers and move them, for example, to hotels, that naturally becomes an issue itself. We will defend ourselves by any means. We will defend our people.
Well, in an interview with state broadcaster Arakchi said the Gulf nations must pressure the US over its actions against Iran.
Instead of pressuring the Islamic Republic of Iran to explain why it is attacking US targets on their soil, they should pressure the Americans to explain why they initiated and waged this unjust, illegal war without cause, dragging the region into this situation. They claimed they were not using countries in the region, and the countries in the region claimed they had not provided United States with their airspace or territory. So how did those aircraft end up in Kuwaiti airspace?
Well, the US military has confirmed that 6 American service members have been killed since the launch of Operation Epic Fury. This toll has risen from 4 confirmed deaths to 6, with identities of the fallen being withheld until 24 hours after next of kin notification. The casualties have been part of major combat operations against Iran, which have intensified amid the ongoing conflict. The US military has also reported that several other troops have been seriously wounded during these operations. The situation remains fluid, with the US military continuing to engage in combat operations against Iran and Israel. And the US First Lady Melania Trump chaired a meeting of the United Nations Security Council on children caught in conflict as the US-Israeli war against Iran raged. She opened the meeting with a strike of a ceremonial gavel before thanking Britain for its month-long presidency and spoke again later, apparently to honor US service members killed in the war on Iran. The First Lady expressed support for children around the world and voiced hope that they would soon experience peace, while Rosemary DiCarlo, UN Under-Secretary General for Political and Peacebuilding Affairs, highlighted recent school closures in parts of the Middle East due to ongoing military operations and cited reports of children killed in a strike on a school in Iran. And US Senate leaders clashed in debate with differing reactions over US President Donald Trump ordering strikes on Iran over the weekend on Monday. On the US Senate floor, Republican and Senate Majority Leader John Thune said Iran rejected US diplomatic proposals, so the president opted for military action.
President Trump and his administration relentlessly pursued a diplomatic solution to the threat posed by Iran. But the Iranian regime refused diplomatic off-ramps. And so now the president is taking action. My prayers are for the success of the mission and, above all, for the safety of U.S. personnel in harm's way. 4 U.S. service members have lost their lives as a result of Iranian attacks.
While Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer said Trump has launched America into a full-scale conflict against one of our most fervent adversaries, and it's not what the American people want. The Pentagon also played down concerns that the U.S. attack on Iran risked plunging the United States into a new open-ended conflict in the Middle East and warned the campaign could last several days and involve further U.S. casualties. Well, Australia said on Tuesday that an Iranian drone attack struck its military headquarters in the Middle East over the weekend, but all personnel remained safe. Defense Minister Richard Marles confirmed that drones targeted Al Minhad Air Base in the United Arab Emirates, where Australian forces have operated for years. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese supported the US-Israeli action. Australia also said around 115,000 of its citizens remain in the Middle East and are unable to leave due to widespread airspace closures. Al Minhad Air Base has served as Australia's main operational hub in the region since 2003. And a first charter flight carrying 127 Italian citizens stranded in Oman or moved there from Dubai landed in Rome's Fiumicino airport late on Monday. The operation came as Italy works to repatriate its citizens stuck in the West Asia following the US-Israeli strike on Iran and the subsequent escalation in the region. The Foreign Ministry said in a statement, embassies and consulates in Abu Dhabi, Dubai and Oman are working to transfer Italian nationals to airports still operating in the region. Among the passengers were Italians returning home as well as citizens of other countries who made their way back to Europe with assistance from the Italian embassy. And Iran has targeted energy facilities in Qatar and Saudi Arabia, a major escalation in the conflict which could threaten the global supply of oil and gas and drive up the prices. Also, Qatar's state-run energy firm said it had halted liquefied natural gas production following Iranian attacks on facilities at two of its main gas processing bases. Earlier, the massive Ras Doordarshan refinery on Saudi Arabia's Gulf Coast went into partial shutdown after a strike by drones led to a fire. A terminal in Abu Dhabi was also attacked by a drone. In parallel, energy markets are also absorbing a de facto halt to traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, through which about 20% of global supply of oil and LNG travel. The waterway has not technically been closed, but major maritime companies have suspended travel through it as insurance costs soar amid heightened risk. Also, since Israel and the United States launched strikes on Iran on Saturday, the world's largest shipping firms have ordered their ships to find shelter and stay safe. Iran has demonstrated a willingness to expand the war through its targeting of energy assets, but no one wants to see energy flows interrupted, including Iran, which is dependent on the associated revenue. With Iran targeting energy infrastructure, there is a high risk that Iran's key export facilities at Kurg Island will be stuck. And in the latest news, oil prices rose for a third day on Tuesday amid heightened fears of supply disruptions from the key West Asian producing region. Brent crude futures were at $78.83 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude jumped 1% to $71.97 a barrel. Tankers and container ships are avoiding the waterway as insurers have cancelled their coverage for the vessels. European gas oil futures gained 2.7% to $909.50 a metric ton after climbing 18% on Monday. The concerns about transiting the waterway are increasing as Iranian media reported that Iranian Revolutionary Guards senior officials saying the Strait of Hormuz is closed and Iran will fire on any ship trying to pass. Analysts expect oil prices to remain elevated over the coming days while markets face on the impact of escalating conflict. Well, Spain said the United States is not using and will not be using joint military bases on its territory for operations against Iran. 15 U.S. aircraft that left the Rota and Moron military bases in southern Spain since the U.S. and Israel launched attacks on Iran. Foreign Minister Jose Manuel Alvarez said Spain would not allow its military bases, which are jointly operated by the U.S. and Spain but under Spanish sovereignty, to be used for attacks on Iran, which Spain has condemned. Defense Minister Margarita Robles said the aircraft, primarily aerial refueling tankers, including the Boeing KC-135 Stratotanker, had been permanently stationed in Spain.
At this moment, in the operation being carried out by the Israeli and US armies, they are acting unilaterally without the support of an international resolution, and therefore they are not using those bases. The tanker aircraft are permanently stationed there, and the aircraft have left because they were not going to carry out any operations from here. They are American aircraft, and the American military decides what to do with them. What is very clear is that the tanker aircraft in Moron or Rota have not carried out and will not carry out any maintenance or support operations.
Well, oil and gas prices soared, stock markets mostly retreated, and the dollar rallied on Monday as the widening Iran war shook financial markets across the globe. Well, the European natural gas prices jumped over 39% after liquefied natural gas production in Qatar was halted following Iranian attacks on major gas facilities. World crude futures jumped more than 6% in fears of disruption to supplies, with the vital Strait of Hormuz effectively shut and several ships attacked. Wall Street's main indices fell decisively at the start of the session but recovered throughout the day. While the Dow still finished lower, the Nasdaq ended in positive territory and the S&P 500 eked out a small gain. Equities took a harder hit in Europe and Asia as investors looked beyond stocks in favor of the dollar and gold. The greenback jumped around 1% against its major rivals. Gold prices finished 0.8% higher after a bigger increase earlier in the day. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held important telephonic conversations, one with the King of Bahrain and another with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Prince Mohammed bin Salman, on Monday. In a post on X, Prime Minister Modi said that he had a productive telephonic conversation with the King of Bahrain, His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. Prime Minister Modi also said that India condemns the attacks on Bahrain and stands in solidarity with its people in this difficult hour. PM thanked Al Khalifa for the steadfast support extended to the Indian community in Bahrain. Also, Prime Minister Modi held talks with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Prince Mohammed bin Salman. In a post on X, Prime Minister Modi said that they discussed the evolving situation in West Asia. Prime Minister Modi condemned the recent attacks in Saudi Arabia, calling them a violation of sovereignty and territorial integrity. Both leaders agreed that the earliest restoration of regional peace and stability is of utmost importance. Prime Minister Modi also thanked the Crown Prince for looking after the well-being of the Indian community during these difficult times. Well, Prime Minister Modi also spoke with King Abdullah II, the King of Jordan, on the conflict in West Asia. Prime Minister Modi conveyed his deep concern at the evolving situation in the region and reaffirmed India's support for peace, security and the well-being of the people of Jordan. Prime Minister also thanked him for taking care of the Indian community in Jordan in this difficult hour. Also, the Embassy of India in Abu Dhabi has advised all Indian nationals in the UAE to avoid unnecessary travel, take due care, remain vigilant and follow safety guidelines and advisories as and when issued by the UAE authorities and the embassy.
I want to assure you that the Government of India attaches very high importance to the safety, security and well-being of the Indian nationals across the region and in UAE. Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has spoken to the President, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, yesterday night, and also earlier External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar spoke to the Foreign Minister, His Highness Sheikh Abdullah. We have thanked them for their prompt and effective action they have taken to ensure safety, security of the country, the residents and the Indian community here in UAE. I would like to tell you that the Indian Embassy in UAE and the Indian Consulate in Dubai, we are working around the clock 24/7 to ensure that we are available to all members of community. We are running helplines 24/7 and emails, which are details below in the screen.
Well, the Indian Embassy in the UAE and the Indian Consulate in Dubai also urged people to not fall prey to any rumors or unverified information.
I'd like to tell you, please do not fall prey to any rumors or unverified information. Always check official handles, in the embassy social media handles, the official media handles and the handles of the authorities in UAE and different emirates for any information. Also, please do act responsibly on the social media. Do not spread any unverified information, which is important. Those who are affected because of the overflight restrictions, I would like to tell you that we are working and closely in contact with the airlines and the authorities on the matter.
Well, Indian Embassy in Kuwait also posted on social media saying the embassy remains fully engaged in assisting Indian passengers stranded in Kuwait due to the temporary shutdown of airspace. Embassy officials are in regular contact with the stranded passengers and are closely liaising with Kuwaiti authorities, managements of the respective hotels and airlines. And India's Ministry of Civil Aviation is closely monitoring the evolving airspace situation in parts of the Middle East and its impact on international flight operations. Indian carriers have undertaken calibrated adjustment to their schedules, with long-haul and ultra-long-haul operations being progressively resumed through alternative routings that avoid restricted airspace. Aircraft and crew repositioning measures are underway to restore operational stability at the earliest. Special arrangements are being made to facilitate the movement of stranded passengers. Airlines are deploying additional capacity where required and coordinating closely with foreign aviation authorities and Indian missions abroad to ensure safe and orderly passenger movement. Indigo has planned 10 special relief operations from Jeddah to India on 3rd of March 2026 to facilitate the return of stranded passengers. It's subject to required approvals and prevailing airspace conditions. Indigo is coordinating with the Consulate General of India at Jeddah for passenger facilitation. The ministry remains in continuous coordination with airlines, airport operators, regulatory authorities and the Ministry of External Affairs to ensure safe operations, orderly restoration of services and facilitation of affected passengers. All right, time now for a short break. We'll be back in a while.
This week on Defense Dynamics, does the Indian Air Force need a fifth-generation fighter now to counter China's Chengdu J-20? With AMCA still in the pipeline, we weigh the pros and cons of the F-35 Lightning II and Sukhoi Su-57. We decode Israel's air defense shield, Iron Dome, David's Sling and Arrow, and what India can learn from it. India inducts INS Anja Deep, boosting coastal anti-submarine capability, why it matters. Catch the full analysis this Wednesday at 8 p.m. IST only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Quran and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. U.S. urges Americans to leave all of the Middle East due to safety concerns. Trump outlines objectives of its military action on Iran as the last best chance to eliminate the threat posed by the Iran regime. Iran conflict disrupts global trade as shipping companies order vessels to find shelter. Traffic on world's most vital sea route grinds to a minimum. Oil, gas and prices surge. Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks to King of Bahrain, King of Jordan and Saudi Crown Prince, strongly condemns attacks, calling it violation of sovereignty, calls for regional peace. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address the post-budget webinar on the theme Sustaining and Strengthening Economic Growth via video conferencing, aims to strengthen the foundations of critical sectors. And today, the sky will host a spectacular celestial show as full moon will slip into Earth's darkest shadow during a total lunar eclipse and create a stunning blue moon. And moving on, Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address the post-budget webinar on the theme Sustaining and Strengthening Economic Growth at 11:15 a.m. IST via video conferencing. Under this theme, 4 different webinar sessions are being held covering various sectors including manufacturing, industrial upgradation and strategic sectors, MSMEs, finances and market access, city economic regions and infrastructure, logistics and freight. The post-budget webinar will highlight the forward-looking reform push to expand industrial scale, deepen technological leadership and strengthen the foundations of critical sectors. The deliberations will focus on translating these priorities into effective action, guided by insights from industry participants whose on-ground experience will support more effective implementation. Well, the Indian Railways has ensured that passengers across the country are also able to travel home for the Holi festival with ease and comfort through meticulous planning and coordinated execution across all railway zones. In the last 5 days, around 14 lakh passengers have travelled from the Delhi area. Based on continuous monitoring of passenger rush at major stations, South Central Railway has announced the operation of 195 special trains from the last week of February through March to cater to increased demand. Amid the heightened travel demand during the Holi festive period, Western Railway recorded a total of 23 lakh passengers over 3 days. These special services are connecting major cities, state capitals and important regional centres across the country, ensuring confirmed accommodation for passengers and significantly reducing congestion on regular trains. Indian Railways continue to monitor passenger demand closely and remain committed to providing safe, efficient and passenger-friendly services during peak travel seasons. Well, ahead of Holi, the festive rush has gathered pace, with people across North India thronging markets to shop for the Festival of Colours. More in this report.
Shopkeepers are busy arranging stacks of colourful gulal, while rows of pichkaris hang overhead, drawing the attention of children and parents alike. Ahead of Holi, the festive rush has gathered pace, with people across North India thronging markets to shop for the Festival of Colours. In Bihar's capital Patna, preparations for Holi are in full swing. Shops are seeing steady footfall as residents step out to buy festive supplies. Stalls display colourful smoke guns, scented gulal, eco-friendly colours and designer water guns. Neon wigs spill over display racks, goggles gleam under the light and newly arrived bright masks line shop fronts, their bold hues adding a dramatic touch to this year's offerings. In Varanasi, markets are stocked with a range of festive merchandise, but traders say herbal colours are witnessing strong demand this year. Buyers are increasingly choosing skin-friendly options to steer clear of side effects during the celebrations. Distinctive pichkaris and themed masks are drawing attention, highlighting evolving preferences this Holi. Parents say children are especially fascinated by creatively designed water guns, encouraging families to explore newer options. Meanwhile, in Lucknow, shops are packed with Holi items, from colours and water guns to masks and t-shirts, as people gear up for the festivities. Organic colours have emerged as a popular choice, with many favouring them this season. Sweet shops too are presenting festive delicacies as customers complete their last-minute purchases. The spirit of Holi is already spreading across the streets even before the festivities begin. Holi will be celebrated across India on March 4th.
Standing stereotypes and fostering a sense of belonging among the widows of Vrindavan, clad in white saris, celebrated Holi at the historic Gopinath temple on Monday, setting aside long-standing social restrictions that once kept them away from the Festival of Colours.
Clad in white saris, widows in Vrindavan celebrated Holi at the historic Gopinath temple on Monday, setting aside long-standing social restrictions that once kept them away from the Festival of Colours. In recent years, Holi celebrations organized by Sulabh International have become meaningful occasions for these women, many of whom had long faced social neglect and humiliation.
हमारी माताएं सब चीज में पार्टिसिपेट कर सकती हैं, सारी त्योहारों में, शादियों में, हर चीजों में इनको अशुभ नहीं माना जाए, इनको बिल्कुल शुभ माना जाए.
The celebration aims to challenge long-standing stereotypes and foster a sense of belonging among the widows of Vrindavan. Locals who joined the celebration welcomed the initiative, saying it helps break social stigma and promotes greater inclusion.
डॉक्टर बिंदेश्वर पाठक ने तो ये लक्ष्य लिया ही था. उनका लक्ष्य एक कदम और आगे कि यहाँ रंग बिरंगे रंग से इनको समाज की मुख्यधारा से जोड़ना जाए और इनके ऊपर कोई भी सामाजिक धब्बा जो लगा है विधवा होने का वो मिटा सके.
More than 200 widows from 5 ashrams chanted Bansi Wale Ki Jai, danced to traditional Rasiya songs sung in the temple, and celebrated by showering over 1,000 kilograms of flowers and 700 kilograms of gulal on one another.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. India is set to celebrate the Festival of Colours, Holi, on Wednesday with vibrant colours, music and festive cheer, bringing communities together across the country. Markets across India are buzzing ahead of Holi with vibrant colours, designer water guns and festive masks. Shops are witnessing steady footfall, while traders report rising demand for herbal and skin-friendly colours this year. Hundreds of thousands of devotees from across Gujarat thronged to Dwarka on Tuesday to celebrate the Holi Phool Dole festival at the revered Dwarkadish temple and Falgun Purnima, offering prayers and playing Holi with Lord Dwarkadish. In the ancient city of Varanasi, pre-Holi celebrations have begun with melodies echoing across the Pandey Ghat. Artists are mixing playful songs with classical music, reflecting the city's rich musical heritage shaped by the maestros. Devotees gathered at the Bagnath temple in Uttarakhand ahead of Holi for a community celebration with musical performances by local singers known as Holiyars. This centuries-old tradition will continue in villages across the region until Wednesday. And in other news, a total lunar eclipse is set to take place in India as well as across several time zones on 3rd of March. In this, the moon moves from right to left, passing through Earth's shadow. A total lunar eclipse occurs when the Sun, Earth and Moon are precisely aligned and the Earth comes between the Sun and the Moon and blocks any direct sunlight from reaching the Moon. In the Indian context, the experience will vary by region. Most of the places in India will observe the ending of the lunar eclipse at the time of moonrise, except some places in Northeast India and Andaman and Nicobar Islands, where the end of the totality phase of the eclipse will also be visible. The eclipse is slated to begin at 3:20 p.m. with the totality phase starting at 4:34 p.m. And now let's go across to Nepal. The Himalayan nation is preparing for 5th of March national elections. The Election Commission of Nepal has directed the monitoring officers to effectively implement the code of conduct until the voting day. More than 3,400 candidates are in fray for the March 5th polls. Nearly 19 million people will take part in the ballot for Nepal's House of Representatives, the lower of the country's 2 houses of parliament. They will elect 275 members of parliament through a mixture of first past the post voting and proportional representation. The general election will be the first the country has held since deadly youth-led protests toppled the government in September 2025. And for more on the polls, we have Shweta Singh joining us from Nepal. With Shweta, the 5th of March election comes months after youth-led protests toppled the government. What are the key contests and what are the issues in the Nepal election in a day from now?
Lapakshi, you see from today there is a silence period ongoing. So which party can be more prominent or detail about that is not fair to share, as it will be like opinion poll. But there are like this time the complete traditional voting pattern will be shattering. It will be completely shattering of the traditional way of voting. People really demand change, and that have been visible in the field. From last 1 month when I'm touring around Nepal, talking to people, you see they are really obsessed for change. They want something new, something different now. And there are options now. In this election, there are options. So we have to see on March 5, people exercise their votes for this change, for this options or not. And you see all these parties have promised a lot. I would say, because the major parties, political parties, were already in power from so many decades. But there was not much change what people demanded. But now, after Gen Z protest, people demand a change, new system, new way of approaching an issue, and good life, happy Nepali life, I would say, for everyone. So every party have been promising with their own slogan, Happy Nepali, Happy Nepal. Many different slogans are there. But I think people are looking forward for a change here in Nepal.
All right, so young voters played a visible role in recent movements, as we know, and you're saying that the voters are quite excited. With the silence period also now in effect ahead of the vote, how seriously are parties and the candidates respecting the campaign ban, especially on the social media?
See, because on social media, there are chances of reiterating the past posts that there have been already content have been generated and it is posted. It is just like you make a slight change and it can be reposted. So even for these all things, Election Commission of Nepal has been very strict.
Right.
All the officers have been given strict direction to see code of conduct is not violated, and many parties don't want to risk that. Because once they violate the code of conduct, their candidacy can be cancelled. And nobody can afford that now. Because if their star candidates or some good candidates are cancelled just because of this silly mistake, I would say, they are going to suffer. So nobody would do that. And that is being strictly implemented here in Nepal. And today I'm seeing the entire road is vacant, no campaigning. Else, from last 1 week, I was seeing at least everybody was having a flag in their hand with different symbol banner, and they were roaming around in every small lanes. Door-to-door campaign was happening. So today it's really quite here.
All right, so silence period in effect ahead of the polls. Thank you so much, Shweta, for all that information from Nepal. And time now for a short break. We'll be back in a while.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran. On to some sports news now. Lalit Sehrawat claimed a bronze medal on the final day of the Muhammad Malu wrestling tournament in Albania to lift India's tally to 7 medals. The Indian wrestler who won bronze at the Under-23 Asian Championships in 2023 clinched the medal in the Greco-Roman 55 kg category in Tirana city. The 23-year-old sealed his first podium finish at United World Wrestling Ranking Series event with a 9-0 win over Kazakhstan's Arsen Juma. Sujit Kalkal was India's only gold medalist at the tournament. The next ranking series will be held in Mongolia from 4th to 7th of June. And the Board of Control for Cricket in India has announced the schedule for the Afghanistan team's upcoming tour of India in June this year. Afghanistan will kick off their campaign with a one-off test match followed by 3 one-day internationals. The test match will be played in New Chandigarh from 6th to the 10th of June. The ODI series will commence on 14th of June in Dharamshala with the subsequent matches scheduled in Lucknow and Chennai. And the Indian naval sailing vessel Kaudinya was ceremonially flagged into Mumbai harbour by Minister of State for Defence Sanjay Seth on Monday. The flagging ceremony signified the culmination of INSV Kaudinya's historic journey to the Sultanate of Oman and a return passage across the Arabian Sea, reaffirming India's enduring maritime heritage and centuries-old linkages between India and Oman across the Indian Ocean. INSV Kaudinya is a traditionally constructed stitched ship built entirely using ancient Indian techniques in which wooden planks are hand-stitched together with coir rope and sealed using natural resins. The vessel represents a revival of India's rich maritime craftsmanship and reflects the nation's commitment to rediscovering and preserving its Indic knowledge systems.
For me personally, this journey carries a special meaning. I was first shown the image of an Ajanta painting sail ship for reconstruction in December 2021. From that moment to tracing down the traditional artisans, working on the design with Holi innovation and model testing with IIT Madras, overseeing the construction and finally sailing on her across the open ocean, it has been an incredible journey and a privilege that I will always cherish.
And March 3rd is the World Wildlife Day, celebrating our planet's rich biodiversity. India continues strengthening wildlife protection through focused conservation efforts, ensuring sustainable ecosystems and securing nature for future generations. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya has this report.
3rd March marks World Wildlife Day, a celebration of our planet's extraordinary biodiversity and a reminder of our shared responsibility to protect it. This year's theme, Medicinal and Aromatic Plants, Conserving Health, Heritage and Livelihoods, highlights how nature sustains human health, cultural traditions and local economies, while facing growing threats from habitat loss, over-harvesting and climate change. India, one of the world's most biodiverse nations, continues to lead from the front. From the majestic Asiatic lions of Gir National Park to its vast forest and river ecosystem, conservation remains a national priority. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, flagship initiatives like Project Lion, Project Tiger, Project Cheetah and Project Dolphin are strengthening wildlife protection and habitat restoration across the country. Wildlife supports livelihoods, food security, medicine, and ecological balance. Protecting it is not just about saving species, it is about securing our own future. On this World Wildlife Day, let us renew our commitment to conserve it for generations to come. Tapas Bhattacharya's report, DD India.
All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.